Hey everyone, happy Friday. Hope everybody is having a great week. Um, I was looking through social as I always do and often do, um, and I happened to catch this ridiculous um, video of Alex Jones talking about how Trump needs to be impeached and all this other stuff. And I'm like, bruh, what are you even talking about right now? Outside of the fact that I personally think Alex Jones is, I would say, outstayed his welcome within certain circles. He's definitely lost the benefit of the doubt over these last couple weeks and months. But at any rate, it got me thinking about, and it wasn't just Alex Jones. Like there are other people like, Sean Ryan and other individuals that are like, oh, I'm, Trump this, Trump that. What I think has happened over the last, literally a couple of days, on one side you have the Fauci testimony that happened, or lack thereof, that happened this week in Congress. And then you have like 50,000 plus people, Moroccan immigrants, rolling into Spain, essentially. I mean, the part of Spain that they're rolling into is connected to Morocco. It's whatever. But it's been under Spain control for like 1,500 years. But at any rate, or since 1,500 or whatever. Point is it got me thinking, like, these two things, especially Fauci, if you look at the online sphere of progressives, like Jimmy Dore and Kim Iverson and these other people, and the content that they put out regarding Fauci, it's the same content that's being put out by those on the right. And there's a heavy overlap in right and left-leaning individuals in regards specifically to how more so the Biden regime responded to COVID, and within that, which overlapped, was how Fauci responded to COVID. Under Trump's term, it was the guidance that was made no sense, whether it was 6 feet of separation, whether it was these indoor masking regulations, wearing masks in general, even though Fauci originally said that people didn't need masks, but then he was saying that because he didn't want to have a run on masks because we were short, and then he said that we needed masks, and then somebody took, I think, out of context, like him saying, 2 masks, so then you had people wearing 2 masks. It's like, all of it made no sense. And then you get to Operation Warp Speed. Now, there are 2 sides of Operation Warp Speed. And this is where I think people get confused about why Trump takes credit for Operation Warp Speed. In a vacuum, by itself, Operation Warp Speed is probably one of the greatest accomplishments, I would say, in recent history in regards to science. Like getting a therapeutic, or vaccine as they were calling it, but more of a therapeutic, out in a record time. Now, the fundamental difference between how Trump's administration was approaching it and Biden's administration was approaching it was this. The Trump administration's approach was to get it out to high-risk people. This is people with multiple comorbidities, and the elderly. That's fine, and that makes a lot of sense. That's the way the flu shot is marketed, and nobody has any problems with that. And if people want to take it, because they feel like they want to get it, or they're going to be around elderly people and they want to lower the ability for them to transmit, which is a whole other conversation, then it's their choice, right? It's once you got to the Biden administration, and then the mandates that came from Fauci. Mandating a therapeutic that should have only been to a specific subset of people, which is high-risk individuals. Instead, they push it on perfectly healthy people, changing the trajectory of their lives potentially because of things like myocarditis, long COVID, continuous exposure to a therapeutic that actually ended up lowering their immune system and immune response to the virus. But more so, in tandem with mandating it, also recommending the social pressure to coincide with mandating it. And this is, I'm talking specifically to any state that had vaccine cards in use in order to do anything in public. In New York, you had to have a vaccine card to get into bars and restaurants. You had to have a vaccine card to, in some cases, we didn't really use it to fly, but you had to use it to go to conventions. I mean, there were so many ways in which this vaccine card was pressed, and the whole reason was to force compliance amongst the population. And this is a uniting point in kind of just things in general. And this is why, this is the ultimate separation between the Republicans and the Democrats today. And you can say whatever you want about Trump, and you can say whatever you want about Republicans, but there is a fundamental difference to their generalized approach for both COVID and personal freedom. And so this is what we are fighting for. Fighting against, I should say. We're fighting against forced mandates. We're fighting against the government intrusion in your personal life, forcing you to do things that you don't want to do. This is how we all unite. You look at Spain, and again, I'm an American citizen, born and raised here. I don't really give two S's what happens in Spain, but Spain is a good example of also what unites those who strive to make America better and strive to put American citizens first versus those that would choose to give things to others that are not American citizens that they wouldn't give to American citizens. And I'm speaking specifically to any state or any city that has prioritized illegal immigrants over its own citizens. This is what we fight for, or fight against in this case. We're fighting against this constant push to, have non-citizens getting benefits and getting treatment better than American citizens. If you live in a city where there are American homeless people on the streets, and yet illegal immigrants are being put up in hotels sponsored by your tax dollars, given meals in those hotels sponsored by your tax dollars, given cell phones, and given money if, say, they have kids with them on your tax dollars. Meanwhile, there are American citizens sleeping on the streets and are not afforded those same kind of benefits. This is what we're fighting against. And this is uniting. So I don't care about how people feel about Iran. I don't care about any of this other stuff. Like, at the core, these are the main issues that unite us. It's this fighting against tyranny. And right now, the only party that is making a concerted effort or making any effort at all is, fortunately or unfortunately, the Republican Party, and specifically the MAGA base within the Republican Party. And this includes the Joe Rogans of the world, the Sean Stricklands and the Sean Ryans, the Jimmy Dores, the Kim Iversons, the people that are now having a problem with all this extraneous stuff that's going on. we need to bring it back to focusing on the things that actually matter and ultimately bring us together. And these two specific issues are the ones that got Trump elected and basically told Democrats to go shove it. And it will continue to be the driving factor. Now, there is a push to bring forward DSA candidates because, they want to essentially leverage government as the means to an end to solve these problems. That is not what we want. And this is where we start to diverge a little bit, right? But the longer that Mamdani is on TV and pushing out these ridiculous policies in New York, and New York City continues to fail and falter, the more I think it'll bring those other individuals back in that were always on the fringes of kind of the MAGA movement and the more moderate left area that ended up voting for Trump. Like, these are very unifying things. Having someone go in, I'm not even going to talk about any of the anti-Jew stuff that's kind of bubbling beneath the surface there, or sympathies towards the broader Muslim community. Strictly on issues. Mamdani will drive people back, the moderates back to the right. And it won't, and this will be if nothing else changes, if Trump doesn't do anything different than he's doing now. People will see this happening in New York, probably going to be happening within Boston and then the broader state of Massachusetts. You have a DSA candidate running for the governor of Wisconsin who is most likely going to lose, hopefully. There are DSA candidates running all over the country saying like the most ridiculous things, who now, by the way, are trying to backtrack on a few of those things, but the core principles of removing police, not enforcing immigration, treating everybody as if they have a right to citizenship in the U.S. These are not winning messages still. And this is what they're kind of honing in on after paring it back from we want to abolish the Senate, we want to get rid of the Supreme Court, and we want to do all that. They're like, oh, well, okay, maybe that stuff, we don't really believe in that stuff, but what we really believe in is defunding and removing the police, changing how policing is done, decriminalizing, closing down jails. Like, good luck with that. But again, my point is the things happening this week I think are very unifying, and it's time that we start to focus on these issues, the ones that actually matter. Gaza doesn't matter. Israel doesn't matter. Spain by itself doesn't matter. The Ukraine war, not our problem. What is our problem is the rise of this level of what I would call authoritarianism and or communism that is bubbling up in the US. And the approach of the government is the end-all be-all and can solve all problems. This leads us back to COVID-era style policies, ones in which social pressures are forced on people to comply, where you can't do things at all unless you comply, where a world in where illegal immigrants are given the same rights as U.S. citizens. A world where out of one breath, they're talking about we need to provide people a living wage, and the other breath they're letting in millions of low-skilled labor, eroding the working force, the American working force, and driving wages down. Whilst, again, also saying, hey, if you pay more taxes, it means that, you know, you can fund all of this really good stuff, which means we have less money in our bank accounts. We're getting less in services, believe it or not, even with the money that we're putting in. And it's just a never-ending cycle. And they're all saying, oh, we need to increase the minimum wage at the same time while our wages are going down. This is what we're fighting against. And I think we need to, you know, again, we need to get back to focusing on the core issues here. All of this other stuff that's going on is kind of just noise. It's absolute noise. The issues that matter spawn from how the differences in how Republicans and Democrats handled COVID. And the people out there that are like Anthony Fauci, which will force compliance on you at the drop of a hat because they love the power and they feel like whatever they're doing is always right without question and without responsibility at all. Immigration, same thing. I mean, these two issues are our biggest issues. Everything else, again, is just noise. It's all absolute noise. But let me know what you think in the comments section below, as always. You know, am I off base here? You know, am I right on target? Let me know. I'm always open to the comments. But I hope everybody has a great weekend. And as always, keep believing that the best for America is still ahead. Peace out.